Hey y'all, Scott here, I got nothing. And when I'm completely bone dry when it comes to ideas, that's when we bust out the idea wheel. Let's see what we have to talk about today. Ah, son of a bitch. Okay, well I guess I'm talking about the L button today. Holy shit, I have no idea how I got 23 minutes out of that topic. Oh, Jesus Christ. Ha, the physical video game. Look at all this plastic, it's great, right? The box has always been something I've considered one of the simple joys in gaming. Something that doesn't matter in the slightest when it comes to legitimately enjoying a video game, but is something that just sticks with you. I always love just looking at the box, reading the back, seeing all the art. Physical video games are just something that I've always appreciated, and back in the day, that was partially due to the inclusion of this smattering of paper. The video game manual is something I think we only really started talking about until it started to go away. In this digital-heavy age, it's easy to look back at all the little things with games we always took for granted, but really miss now that they're basically gone. Stuff like gaming magazines, demo discs, cheat codes. These aren't dead, but they're dead. Tons of my favorite video game related things have been replaced by much more resourceful and easier solutions, all thanks to this home wrecker. It's the internet, home to such things as... Now, is the internet truly a stupid looking garbage man for killing what once were these little joys of video games? I mean, no, are you kidding me? They got jet roulette on this thing. Yeah, magazines were great, but I can get all this info immediately online. Don't lie, as much as you say, man, I miss magazines. If you had the choice between only getting gaming news immediately through the internet or once a month via a magazine... I don't even have to finish that sentence, you already know what you're gonna pick. But I get it, it's the whole joy of having a physical, tangible thing to flip through, to read all this information, see pictures and advertisements for other games. You only get this thing once a month, you better savor it. With the internet literally giving you everything you could possibly want at whim, it's harder to appreciate the smaller things, like some cool formatting on a page in Nintendo Power, or finally finding out that human beings bought Faceball 2000. Damn it, Scott, you may be saying, I thought you were gonna talk about paper, not paper. We got a little off track here, but the point I'm trying to make is, things are way easier now with a lot of physical things moving to digital. The technology has advanced so much that a lot of the physical things we got back in the day are no longer necessary. But it's a bit harder to appreciate them in this form. Gaming magazines are fundamentally dead, but the content they offered isn't. This kind of stuff can all be found online, and it's way more convenient. However, I still miss the feeling of magazines. They just felt so much more special. This sentiment rings true with so many other elements of gaming, with video game manuals being the most obvious one. Buying a new video game was always an exhilarating experience pre-2011, and a lot of that was because all of this was only half the story. With most games, you would always get instruction manuals, with reading them being my favorite method of realizing I'm a fucking moron. The instruction manual was a necessity back in the early days of gaming, giving you details on the controls, the story, the characters, basically everything you needed to know to get started. In-game tutorials were a rarity. Most NES games you just pop in and immediately start playing. Instruction manuals picked up the slack when it came to teaching you how to play the game or telling the story. This is definitely why so many NES games don't really tell you what to do or how to play because you were expected to read the manual. And oh boy, were these things made for reading. Plus, they all had a notes and memos section in the back where you could jot down little reminders. I don't think anybody actually did this, so I'll start the trend. Gotta use these more often. Look at the Legend of Zelda's manual. This is the culmination of everything that made these things so fun to flip through. All this colorful art, tips and tricks, story details, the enemies' names, even a map. This is the titan of the retro video game manual. It's great when they came in full color and almost acted like mini strategy guides. When you truly love a game, you kinda wanna dive deeper and get a better look at the characters and story, and great manuals like this one let you do that at no extra cost. NES RPG and adventure games got the best booklets. Star Tropics, Final Fantasy, Zelda 2, Dragon Warrior, all of these things got full color platters of information with extra art drawn just for it, maps, the works. It's great to see exclusive artwork in these things. Bubble Bobble had its story explained through a comic, and Mario 3's is just so much fun to look through. But not all manuals were created equally. Keep in mind, this was the era of English, mistranslations, made-up plots, spelling errors, or just completely wrong statements, all par for the course when it came to NES manuals. Castlevania 2 Simon's Quest. Congratulations! You now own the authentic Konami home version of Simon's Quest, one of Konami's many original arcade hits. Konami lied to me? I love the game screenshots. Sometimes they literally just slammed a Kodak in front of the screen to take a picture. Other times, I guess they did the same, but added a negative effect to everything to make it easier to see in black and white. Manuals would continue to get better and better over time, even when they became more and more unnecessary. Around the SNES and Genesis era, games started to become more conscious, offered tutorials, became less cryptic, but that didn't stop manuals from really hitting it out of the park. The best ones felt like an extension of the game's world. Like, oh man, it feels like I'm with Marcus Phoenix right now, where did all this blood come from? Or just when the manual retains the style of the game, like with Red Dead Redemption. Rockstar knows how to manual. You know with them you're getting a nice thick booklet and a huge map or a poster, it's great. Even in the golden age of manuals, not everything was amazing though. You knew a game was probably not a top priority to a publisher when the manual was in black and white. It was almost a warning sign that the game you bought was stupid garbage. Not always the case, but you knew a publisher really cared when they gave you full-blown color, multiple languages, like wow, they care. Nintendo, you old dogs. Almost every Nintendo first-party release since the SNES gave us these manuals you need spark notes for. Full color, and with the Wii, multiple languages, plus these fun little flyers giving you Donkey Kong upskirts and some new game suggestions. Hey Skyward Sword fans, you'll love Wii Play Motion. Hey look, I'm in Wii Play Motion. Even when they did stuff like re-release GameCube games on the Wii via the new Play Control series, they completely redid all the manuals. They could have just changed up the control layout page and bada boom, they're done. But no, they pretty much made new ones from scratch. But they didn't retain this page from the original Pikmin manual. Come on. Things were going pretty alright in the world of folded pieces of paper with staples through it until the latter half of the Xbox 360 PlayStation 3 era, when manuals became more of a dying art form. Less and less time went into them. More often than not, you'd see black and white, and they consistently got thinner and thinner. Sometimes they just gave a small control layout on a single folded piece of paper. These could be charming. Nintendo did a lot of this with the 3DS, and this worked fairly well. I'm cool with this, although I'd prefer more detail. But hey, it could be worse. It could be a complete waste of my eye resources, because there were some games that didn't even want to do the bare minimum. I mean, at this point, you might as well just give up. If you're gonna include an instruction manual, include an instruction manual, even if it's just a control layout. At least some people will get use out of that. It can be a legitimately helpful little booklet, even if it's all in black and white and just a folded piece of paper. When you just barf some terms and conditions garbage out here, you're effectively really wasting paper. Sure, a real manual uses more paper and more ink, but some people will actually get use out of it. If you're gonna use paper, actually use paper for something useful. Go and pop the terms and conditions on the inside of the artwork or on the back of the box art. Now, this whole death of the manual thing going on could easily be associated with recent years in gaming. But let it be known that Home Improvement on the SNES was one of the most influential games of all time since it kick-started the revolution of not including manuals. Real men don't need instructions. The manual writer really stuck it to us there. The death truly set in for me with the release of Smash Bros. Ultimate. Here's a series that always prides itself in including manuals of the thick honkin' variety. Man, when you're holding a copy of Smash Bros. Brawl, you know it. Look at all this. Even Smash Bros. For 3DS and Wii U. These were released when manuals were this. They showed you all the characters and their moves. This wasn't as in-depth as previous manuals, but still solid. But when we open up Smash Bros. Ultimate, nothing. And now instruction manuals are more so reserved as a premium bonus and special releases and not much more. Now, the space generally reserved for manuals are used for DLC codes, terms and conditions, or advertisements. Can't wait to pop open Sonic Mania Plus. I mean, let's be honest, when they were actively being produced for every game, it was pretty rare you'd actually crack out a manual. It was kind of something to flip through right after you bought the game in the passenger seat on the road home. Now, why do I say this? Well, take a look at the electronic manual. Who the hell uses this thing? I'm sure most people didn't even know loads of games have electronic manuals, but they're here. The thing is, barely anybody, even people who know the e-manual exists, have ever said, I don't know what to do, to the electronic manual. Most of the time, people just look up questions they have online. I mean, it's probably quicker to do that than hit the home button on the Wii U, click the electronic manual, and wait for it to load. It is kind of sad to me that the electronic manual got overlooked because some of them are really fun and have a lot of love shoved into them. These legitimately feel like the old manuals, but now in a form that allows for cool things like animation. And now some games have manuals basically built into them. The only example I can think of off the top of my head is Mario Odyssey, and I mean, it's something that people really didn't use. So I think that shows that tutorials and in-game storytelling have replaced the instruction booklet, and the only reason we liked them was because they were tangible items. You turn a manual into a PDF, almost everybody kind of loses interest. But still, now that they're gone, every time I open up a new game, it's just disappointing. It feels like something should be here, and it almost never is. Now, one great new trend with a lot of physical games is art on the inner sleeve. Since most game cases are transparent, some companies have been printing art on the inside, which is always a treat to see. It's kind of a nice way to bring a little bit of the instruction manual back without wasting paper. Sure, I'd rather get a nice thick paper booklet and see the earth get polluted the f up, but I'll gladly take this. It gives you something to gawk at when you open a case up, and it's way better than Terms and Conditions McGee over there. You can find manuals and stuff like special releases of indie titles, but that's about it. Red Dead 2 came with a map, but no booklet, and Nintendo basically dropped paper inserts entirely with Switch games. Things aren't looking too good for these guys, and it's pretty crazy they're being treated as premium bonuses nowadays. I loved flipping through manuals to games I loved. I actually remember bringing a few manuals to daycare to flip through. But like with magazines and demo discs, they're obsolete, and if you bring them back, it's cool, but not a lot of people are actually going to use them. Even though they're all but gone and they weren't used that much to begin with, they'll always have a place in my and countless others' hearts. Well, as a tribute to the instruction manual, I will fully commit to one and carry out whatever it tells me to do. Oh, okay.